I think the stated policy goals of going into Fallujah were to break the backs of the insurgency. And to do that, the siege happened and we took out an entire Iraqi city to get to 1,600 fighters.
An estimated 1,600.
The estimated 1,600 fighters. I'm not sure what was in the minds of the people that devised that policy because it didn't make sense to me. But that, I think, was the stated policy to try to break the backs of the insurgency. I do know that the policy had the absolute opposite effect of what they said they wanted. Following Fallujah, the resistance in Iraq exploded. Fallujah was a hugely important city to not only the Iraqi people, but throughout the Middle East. It's a holy city. It's called the city of mosques. And by destroying that city, and the 250,000 civilians that lived there, those lives were destroyed. The ones that weren't killed, their lives were destroyed.
After the fighting, the first task of the citizens of Fallujah was to bury their dead. This is one of the many mass graves resulting from the Operation Phantom Fury.
Now, Fallujah was a ferocious battle, and it was intense urban warfare. It was street-to-street fighting inside a city, a very compact city, and a very large city. A city that had 250,000 civilians in it. And even though they were forced, the majority of the population was forced out, there was estimates even by the Pentagon that up to 20% of the civilians were left inside the city. So that's up to 50,000 civilians that were stuck inside what became a live fire zone inside a city. And then the city was bombarded by airstrikes for 6 days. And then the siege itself took 8 days of intense urban conflict that devastated the city. It completely destroyed all the businesses, it destroyed the infrastructure, it destroyed the medical centers, it destroyed downtown, and then most of the urban outlying areas, the houses were damaged. City blocks, entire city blocks were taken out. The water supply was ruined, the treatment plants were ruined. It was a city that looked like it had been destroyed.
After all that they've been through to get home, the refugees of Fallujah find their city in ruins. This is a living nightmare for the people returning to their homes. There is nothing left of their former lives or the city they once knew. Almost all of the houses and the businesses have been destroyed or damaged. The American media has failed to report the destruction of an entire city.
Every Iraqi person that I talked to told me that it is worse now in Iraq than it was under Saddam. And no matter how bad Saddam was, we should not be doing the same things that he did. We went in there because he was using aggression against other nations without being attacked. We went in there because he was taking out his own cities, because he was killing his own people, because he was torturing, because he was detaining without without due process. And we've done all those things in Iraq now. It seems like we're using Saddam as an example of how to deal with Iraqis. And it's not lost on the Iraqi people that while Saddam is under trial for committing these crimes, our policy is committing the same crimes against the people of Iraq. That story reminds me of my experience in Fallujah. When I went there, I'd been watching a lot of our media reports here. They called it the hotbed of the insurgency, and the town had been taken over by al-Zarqawi and foreign fighters. Indeed, even the military now says that after all was said and done and all the dead were counted, only 150 foreign fighters were found in Fallujah. That means almost the entire force of the resistance in Fallujah were Iraqi people, and a lot of them were Fallujans defending their city. And when I got in there, the majority of Fallujans are children.
That's an important point. I mean, what's the difference between an insurgent and someone who lives there?
I don't know. And I think that's a question that we need to ask, because are we now saying in Iraq that anybody that picks up a weapon to defend their home is a terrorist? And I think that's what our country is saying. A lot of the people I met in Fallujah were Fallujans that were fighting for their home. They were telling me they were fighting for their city. They were fighting for their families. They were fighting to protect their children and their religion and their future.
Now that we're there, we have to stay. True or false?
I think that's false. I think 80% of the Iraqi people now want us to leave, and they tell me it will not get better until you go. And then once you go, we can take care of ourselves. Took care of ourselves before you got here. We can take care of ourselves after you leave. But it's not going to get better until you go.
But if we leave, there'll be an all-out civil war. It's often said by people who advocate staying.
You know, I talked to a lot of Sunnis and a lot of Shias when I was there, and the most common response I got to that question was, we are Iraqis first. We are not Shias and Sunnis. We are Iraqis first. The people that I was with, they were Kurdish Sunnis with Shia mix in their families. They had intermingled, they had intermarried. There was a blood drive of a Shia mosque for the people of Fallujah. I think that by us creating this violent place in Iraq, we are fanning the flames of a civil war.
Okay. Mark Manning, filmmaker. The name of the film again is?
Caught in the Crossfire.
Terrific film. We recommend everyone take a look at that. Thank you very much for viewing.
Thank you.